You are watching me, Mick, here on my YouTube channel, Movies TV Mad. You can also follow me on X at Movies TV Mad, Instagram, Movies TV Mad X. Since I launched this YouTube channel in July of 2018, if my recollection is correct, I've tried to inform you not to judge me on my low subscriptions, my low views, and to understand that I'm very much connected in this industry. But I would rather you not know who my dad was and what my background in the entertainment industry is in detail, because I'd rather just float around social media saying whatever I want without getting too much heat in connection to who I actually am. So I'm happy not to brag about the people that I know in the industry. I'm happy just to be Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. But I do know my stuff. I do understand the entertainment industry, and I'm begging you not to think because many people don't watch my platform or that you don't know who I am, that I don't know what I'm talking about. How many times have I told you something and I've been right, whether it be about DC, whether it be about Doctor Who, or even Manchester United, but nobody ever believes me because you'd much rather put your faith and trust in false prophets. You should beware of false prophets. But I am a real fucking prophet. So guess what? After months and months of telling you that RTD is pretty much going to distance himself from the old continuity of Doctor Who and do a seminal reboot, I've been telling you that since he came back for the second time around being Doctor Who Supremo. Didn't I tell you this? The other day when I did a video on my kitchen patio, didn't we have this discussion that he would move away from the original continuity? And I bet you thought I was talking out of my backside. Well, guess what, everyone? He's confirmed it. He said during this Saturday night's The Giggle on BBC One at 6:30 on the iPlayer and on Disney Plus everywhere outside of the UK that something's going to happen. Something big is going to happen, in The Giggle that means we will be looking at Doctor Who history in a different way. His words, not mine. And he's looking forward to everybody's reaction. Translation, he hopes he triggers the fuck out of you. He's already done it with, the Davros thing, taking him out the chair and the prosthetics. He wants to annoy the right people because it's become very, very political. And it's basically, in a way, them versus us. Now, my political thing really is moderate left. I believe if you see someone on the floor, you should give them a hand up. The right wing believe if you fall on the floor, you should get up on your own. That's the differences. Although the extreme left basically hate straight white males, and the extreme right hate everybody else. And Russell T Davies is a left-wing writer. He has always been a left-wing writer. He absolutely can't stand Margaret Thatcher and that type of politics and the Tories. And it's been in his writing since Queer as Folk. So, it's been no secret what RTD's politics are. And I explained to you why he wants to step away from the old Doctor Who continuity. He's not happy with what Chibnall and Moffat did in places, even though he had his arms around them during that kind of cheap, underwhelming Doctor Who concert on the radio. Nothing like what we had on the 50th anniversary with Doctor Who at the proms, because the BBC don't have the money to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who properly. And we've seen that really with these first two specials, and I've explained it probably would have been better not to have 3 specials, but just 1. The best thing he could have done with a trilogy of specials would have Neil Patrick Harris's Celestial Toymaker in all 3 episodes, where the threat is built and built and built, where you have 2 out of 3 cliffhangers. But they couldn't afford to pay Neil. And if you can't do that, why bother having free specials? Because he wants Doctor Who, again, front and centre. 8 episodes a year, a Christmas special. That's what he wants. He wants an after show. He wants Doctor Who front and centre. He wants the spin-offs. But he's also going to create a new continuity. It's not like I didn't warn you about this, and most of you, as I've already said, didn't believe me. I may be a lunatic. I may have mental health issues. It doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. Just because you don't know who I am, it doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to me. How many times have I told you I've been to a test screening and you didn't believe me? I described to you the Batman before any of you saw it. I was right. I saw the Flash movie, I saw Wonder Woman 84. I told you there was another version of Wonder Woman 84. A better version of Wonder Woman 84. I know this because I know this, right? But no one believes anything I say. And you know, I understand if I were you, I wouldn't believe this lunatic I've never heard of with a few views every video and, you know, low subs and nobody. Listen, I don't do this for notoriety. I do it because I'm an egotistical madman who loves the sound of his own voice, very vain, and, you know, likes to state his opinion. I don't do this for attention. If I did this for attention, I would have stopped a long time ago. I think we can all see that, right? That my channel and my X and my Instagram are going nowhere fast. It's not about that. It's about me having my say. So how is this going to play out? Well, it's pretty obvious this all started to take effect in what's it called? Wild Blue Yonder, last Saturday's Doctor Who episode, when the Doctor and Donna bumped into Isaac Newton, and the Doctor says gravity, he mishears and says mavity. Already, history's changing because of that moment. So what could be happening here is that we may not be looking at Doctor Who history totally in a different way, but certain things that RTD wants to change about the history could be changing. Not necessarily deleting them. He could, as we spoke the other day, you know, this brand new Doctor played by Ncuti Gatwa could be a Doctor from another universe, preserving the original continuity, but making Ncuti Gatwa part of a brand new continuity. As I said, I called this, you know, for a while before RTD said anything. I'm not surprised by this. I'm not even upset by it. At the end of the day, I'd rather live in a world where we continued, where we basically backed the revival off from the classic series. He's even, you know, coined the phrase, the Whoniverse. On iPlayer now, all Doctor Who episodes are part of the Whoniverse, saying that now there's no classics and revival. It's all the same show. Typical RTD, doing one thing, misdirecting you, and doing another. It's very, very clever. I'm not angry with RTD because he decided to have a non-white, you know, Isaac Newton. I'm not upset over the Davros thing. I'm not surprised by anything I see anymore, and I get less and less triggered by anything they do in this industry. I'm kind of resolved to it now. In the early days of it, you know, when they were making an all-female Ghostbusters movie, I wasn't triggered by that. But when they were saying girl power, and you could see they were just into mocking the male bimbo secretary played by Chris Hemsworth, you could see their hatred for straight white males, and it all began there. And the situation has become worse and worse and worse. I have no idea what this new Doctor Who era starring Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson is going to be like. But we do know now. The Christmas Day episode titled The Church on Ruby Road will have a musical number where Millie and Ncuti will be singing and dancing. And Ncuti's Doctor will be wearing a kilt. Again, I have no issue with that. Some of you will be upset because he's wearing a skirt. A kilt isn't a skirt. But if he was wearing a dress or a skirt, I'd be fine with that too. These things absolutely don't bother me. What interests me when I watch television, that I'm entertained, that I'm educated, that I'm uplifted emotionally. That's all I care about. Whether they insert their identical political takes into them doesn't really bother me. I prefer that my gender, right, and my sexuality wasn't put down every 5 minutes. But again, it's all part of the course. This is where we are today, and it's not going to change. We've seen many franchises being burnt because of this direction they're taking, namely the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There doesn't seem to be any way back for that. And that's interesting how, as they were going to release The Marvels, a film they knew was going to flop at the global and domestic box office, they were spreading lies of Robert Downey Jr.'s return. Now, Feige said that's not happening. What a surprise. After the films failed, of course you're going to come out and say we worked hard to do that and we were never going to do that. But RTD, of course, is taking a big, big risk. He's banking on our faith in him because how he revived Doctor Who. Someone accused me of drinking the Russell T Davies Kool-Aid when I was, defending the, inclusion of a transgender character, because I don't see the problem with having a transgender character in Doctor Who. It ain't a problem to me. You people will say to me, yeah, but it's the way it's done. Well, what was wrong with it? I mean, what did you want to see different? I mean, we see that she's had problems in her life, right? We see the challenges the character's faced. She's a very sweet, likable character. I don't really know what some of you people were upset about the character. If you were upset about the man bashing at the end, then I can understand that. But even I couldn't be bothered to be upset about that. I suppose it's a lack of resignation now of where we're at, and where I make the decision either to consume something now or not consume it, rather than, I can't do that anymore. I'm not Nerdrodic. I am not Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. I can't be bothered to put all my energy in hatred, because in the end, hatred eats you out, eats you up. It kills you. There is no point to it. I could never hate Russell T Davies, because Russell T Davies, with his Doctor Who revival from back in 2005, gave me so much. From 2005 to 2009, gave me so much. So I could never hate anyone who gave me something so special. Whatever happens with this portion of his second era as Doctor Who Supremo, nobody can take that away from me. He can't take that away from me by changing Doctor Who history, doing a seminal reboot, or whatever he's planning on doing. I never knew exactly what he was planning. I just knew he was planning something because it was obvious. And if it's a surprise to you, you really haven't been paying attention, especially to what yours truly is saying. When I ask some of you people why, the few of you, 5 or 6, 10 of you, whoever support this channel, support me on X Twitter, which I'm very grateful for, or even are coming along now on my Instagram, Movies TV Mad X, I ask you why. You like watching me and you say you're direct and you're honest. We know where we are with you. That's it. That's what you want. That's what you want. We see it now with successful people. I've spoken about Nerdrodic. I like Gary. I think he does a very, very good job. But I don't agree with his politics. It's the same from Jeremy, from Geeks and Gamers, or, Anna, that Star Wars girl. They all amuse me. I like watching their content because they make me laugh in a way. And a lot of the things they say are actually true. But they do come from a methodology politically, and even though Anna denies she's political or right-wing, what you can tell from what she's saying what box she would tick. It's obvious. And they're there to make money. It's the same as Mark Goldbridge from the United Stand. He's been very, very successful at stirring the pot, getting you enraged, but then changing what he says the next day. He's there to get viewers, to make money. I don't have that need or want to go viral. If I went viral, I'd be very, very happy. I'm not going to lie to you, but I don't need to go viral. I don't pay to advertise my content. I don't reshare my videos 200 billion times a day. I'm just too lazy to go viral. That's the truth. I'm here to just tell you how I see it. My opinion isn't universally right. My opinion is just right from my point of view. That is how life works. So yeah, I would prefer that we weren't doing what Russell T Davies is planning on doing, but it could also be handled very, very well. Now, one of the big predictions I made from the moment Russell returned was that he was going to do something multiversal and use the Doctor Who multiverse. Interestingly, when I mentioned the other day when he posted his From Script to Screen, there was a line of dialogue which he didn't have in Wild Blue Yonder saying that I've straddled the multiverse in glorious time ships. So it's clear that he posted that From Script to Screen portion of the dialogue that wasn't in the actual episode for a reason. So I think it is something to do with the whole Mavity instead of gravity thing. I think the multiverse does play into it. And then we have to ask the question, does this Doctor, does David regenerate from his Doctor to shoot his Doctor? I have huge doubts that that's the case. Because even though we've seen a little clip of the regeneration energy happening, shooting out was Doctor could just turn up from the multiverse and then we never see David regenerate. Because they could be literally moving away from this continuity. So these are some of my predictions. And as I say, when we do the review of The Giggle, it's going to be very interesting what I was right about, what I was wrong about. Now I want to move on from Doctor Who to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom because they released a brand new trailer that gives more detail about that movie. And very, very interesting because I know about this movie because I've seen it, but now we can discuss a little bit more. A little bit of a synopsis, if you like, what this film is. Right. Basically, environmentally, in this film, Atlantis is in trouble. That's why it's called Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Because Atlantis is going to rise from under the water to the surface world. Right? This is part of the environmental problems. And this causes, obviously, big problems. And it's not just that. Obviously, we've got the wrath of Black Manta. Basically, the two narrative points in this film is Black Manta wanting revenge on Aquaman by killing his whole family. I better not say anything. I was going to say something, but I better not. I don't want to spoil anything for you if you're actually going to be one of the few people that goes to see the film. What I would say to you about this film is that you should forget about Amber. You should forget about your hatred for what WB did to Zack. Basically, this is a seminal conclusion of the DC Extended Universe, and there are going to be many, many surprises in it. This does wrap up the DCEU really, really well. Now, I don't know in the future what will happen and whether Superman Legacy succeeds or not, or whether or not, if it doesn't succeed, they sell to another company, they sell DC Comics to a streamer like Netflix or Amazon or one of the big studios. We can't tell the future. But it does wrap up the DCEU in a satisfying way. I believe this is a film worth watching. I'm going to go and watch the theatrical cut of this movie in my local movie theatre, and I'm very, very excited to do so. I'm very excited to bring you my review. I'm excited to tell you what I actually think of that film. I quite liked the test screening. Many people didn't like the test screening, and I'll tell you why. I've told you why before. Because in places, it may look a bit funny and light in the trailers, but even in the latest trailer, if you caught it, there's some dark elements to it. And they are hiding the darker elements of this movie. It's the darker elements that test audiences didn't like, but it's being sold by some people that it's a bad movie. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom isn't a bad movie. It literally continues from the end of the first movie. It's very, very good. And according to James Wan, they were never really going to have much of Mira and Amber in this film. I think we would have got slightly more though, but she is in the movie, that's for sure. She's not being cut out because there's elements of her role in the film that are important to the narrative of the film. At the end of the day, I made my point about Amber. You either cut her from the movie, you either recast her, or you just don't bother with her. You make one of those decisions. Reducing how much screen time she's got doesn't change the problem. You either go with her or you go without her. I was never really demanding that she was cut from this movie because I don't care, because I think Johnny Depp and Amber Heard both conducted themselves as lunatics in their relationship. Their relationship is none of my business. I didn't like the fact that Johnny had to pay, with his career, but Amber didn't. Again, this is the environment we live in, the Me Too, Time's Up environment, and of course it's not fair because Johnny Depp was no more to blame than Amber Heard was. Neither of these people were innocent in that relationship. Both of them were abusing each other. In that relationship, again, I know things, they were both doing things that they shouldn't be doing to each other. Let's put it that way so I don't get done by any libelous kind of claims. So nobody was right in that relationship or wrong, but it's nothing to do with us. We shouldn't care. And in a way, it's a shame that this movie is being judged on her, because I do believe it's one of the better superhero movies that's been made in a long time. I think you'll get more out of this than you did from most of the DCEU films out this year, and the Marvel movies as well, apart from Guardians Volume 3, which was a very, very good third act for James's Guardians trilogy. But I think if you do decide to see this film, I think you're going to enjoy it. And I think, yes, the element of the environment is there. That's Jason Momoa's portion of the story. We know he crafted some of this story. It was always going to be a Wrath of Black Manta movie, but Jason wanted the environment to play a part. And that's what happens. Atlantis rises up from underwater because of the environmental damage it faces. And of course, what happens when Atlantis becomes part of the surface world? Because Atlantis is the Lost Kingdom. That's why it's called Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But in this film as well, as we've now seen from this trailer, I'm not giving anything away, is that the way Arthur is ruling Atlantis is being judged by a lot of people and believe he's not a good king. And we saw a clip where Orm says to him, "You're not very good at your job. Why don't you let somebody else who can do it, aka him?" And that may be a thing that Arthur may hand the ruling of Atlantis in the end over to Orm. We'll see how that plays out. Again, I can't spoil the film. If you're interested in this film, you should definitely go and see it. From my experience of this film, I didn't see a bad film. I'm not saying it's one of the best superhero movies ever made, but it's not a bad one. You've got to remember who made the movie, right? You've got to have an incessant trust in certain directors. And I mean, even if I hadn't seen a test screening for this film, I'd still have great faith in James Wan that he wouldn't mug the audience off. He has pride in his work. He will never release a trailer unless the VFX looks perfect. We've already seen in these trailers, the VFX looks stunning. And because it's the final DCEU movie, there's something special about it. Now, I did see Michael Keaton in the test screening, right? I don't know if Michael Keaton was kept in this. I don't know if Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton are both in this movie, or that they've both been replaced by George Clooney. I don't know any of this. That's something we're going to have to wait and see until the movie is released. But to me, you've got a perfect opportunity of wrapping the DCEU up properly. And you know what else you could have done? And I may do an extended video of this tomorrow, unless I've got something else to talk about. I'm not definitely going to do that, but maybe. You know, wouldn't this been the best way for Henry Cavill to say goodbye to his fans? By him appearing in a cameo as Superman in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That would have been perfect. I mean, they already got rid of a cameo from Henry in the Flash movie. That was a mistake, because at the end of the day, having Henry in these movies, in these final couple of movies, doesn't damage what James is doing, because it's a seminal reboot anyway. We've just been talking about one seminal reboot with what Russell's doing with Doctor Who, and here's another. And, you know, it would have been a great goodbye. Now, we don't know. Henry Cavill may surprise us and pop up in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, I have no knowledge of that, to be honest, but I think this would have been a great place in the final DCEU movie ever for Henry to turn up. I think that would have been a really, really good idea, because WB are a bunch of hateful people, because there's bad blood between him and elements of WB Pictures who are still there from the old days and the old leadership. That's probably not going to happen. Now, as you can see, James Gunn is not mentioning Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He mentioned The Flash, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Blue Beetle. He may not even be at the screening. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. He's certainly not promoting it. Why isn't he promoting this movie? Well, part of it is they feel maybe he's confusing people with his new vision of the DCU if he starts talking about the old DCU. But there was a fallout between him and James Wan. James Gunn was getting involved, and James Wan didn't like that. As he said a few months ago, he goes, "I don't mind suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's my movie." And that's the situation that caused the blowout between James Gunn and James Wan. James Wan was not too pleased with the changes Gunn wanted to make, and it became very impossible for Gunn to implement some of the changes he wanted, and James Wan won that battle. And that's quite right too. James is very passionate about his creative freedom, his artistic integrity, like all directors are. And considering that, look, I don't know how Gunn changes things. I don't know is it a part reboot? Is it a full reboot? I think it's more of a full reboot, but I think there's elements of the old universe that will play into the new universe. That's clear, because we're keeping certain actors from the old DCEU. We already know that. But I think it's very, very complicated to start changing things. For example, why does it hurt? Why not keep Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck in that movie? What does it matter? What difference does it make, right? It's very, very weird. But also, there's another weird situation, of course, because like all the release dates are all squashed about, now Aquaman and Lost Kingdom comes out after the Flash movie that's already rebooted the DC universe. So it's all going to, I think they've tried to make things less confusing with this, but we'll see if they actually have made things less confusing with this. But that's the type of movie it's going to be. It is the final DCEU movie, and it'll be interesting to see what changes they've made, if any of the changes that Gunn wanted to be put into this movie actually are in this movie. Will George Clooney turn up? Well, it's insane. I mean, look. I mean, I've said this before. Don't be surprised. I mean, it probably is unlikely, but don't be surprised if George Clooney is the Batman of DC Universe. Don't be surprised. I mean, he's denied this. He's liked people's comments and tweets who have said that wouldn't happen. But you can't put anything past these people. He's denied that Jensen Ackles will be Batman in The Brave and the Bold. You just don't know. He said there's no casting because there's no script. Of course, there's no script for that movie. And he keeps on saying, all I care about is Superman Legacy, because that's the movie that has to be successful. That movie isn't successful. There's no Brave and the Bold. There's no nothing. It's not going to happen. That idea will be dead, and they will sell DC Comics and you can bet on that as much as you can bet on night following day.